I, the Lord of sea and sky, I have heard my people cry, all who dwell in dark and sin, my hand will save. I who made the stars of night, I will make their darkness bright. Who will bear my light to them? Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart.
Good evening, and welcome to another edition of the DPTT Speaks. Today we are going to be talking to you about tourism and how tourism can augment the income of Trinidad and Tobago. You would know that in this year of 2015, that Trinidad and Tobago no longer has the luxury of the high prices we got for oil and gas. As a matter of fact, our income has been reduced by almost 50%. The Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago is saying that one of the contributors to fill that gap is tourism. How can tourism bring real money, real foreign exchange to help in the economy of Trinidad and Tobago? So we're going to start right away into this exciting world of the Democratic Party tourism plan. And of course you can't start talking about tourism without talking about Tobago. So we'll start in Tobago. One of the good things in Trinidad and Tobago is the fact that for tourism, Tobago has been our success story. People from all over the world continue to go to Tobago. Tobago, as we all know, continue to have clean beaches, friendly people, wonderful hotels, and nice warm water. So there's not much that we have to do in Tobago. Another thing that the Democratic Party is going to do, which fits nicely into our plan, is that in our overall governance for Trinidad and Tobago, we believe that the people of Tobago must have a say in how they see the Trinidad and Tobago, how they see Tobago ought to be managed. And so we will not be seeking to impose much of our values or much of our plan into Tobago. We think that Tobago is best served by Tobago planning what's best for Tobago. So with regards to Tobago and tourism, there's just two simple things that we'd like to do. We'd like to ensure that the reefs in Tobago are preserved. And that would mean, in order to preserve the reefs, it would mean that we have to look at the environmental impact on the reefs. And the government of Trinidad and Tobago, a DPTT government, will ensure that the environmental agencies work in tandem with the Tobago House of Assembly to come up with a plan to ensure the longevity of the Tobago reefs. So that's one of the initiatives that the Democratic Party has for tourism in Tobago. The second one, of course, has to do with the joint venture partnership with business in terms of a theme park. One of the things people would recognize when you get to Tobago is that there are lots of stuff for the adults to do. You can go golfing, you can go hiking, you can go to the beaches, but there's not very much for the children to do. So what the Democratic Party wants to do is to join in terms of government and the private sector to ensure that there's a state-of-the-art, world-class theme park in Tobago. With a world-class theme park in Tobago, parents would be able to go to the beaches, they'll be able to go to the reefs, go to the waterfalls, while their children, the teenagers, can go on the roller coaster rides and the water parks, the water slides and so on. So that's the only thing that I think that the government of Trinidad and Tobago central government can do to aid in tourism and to augment the plan of the Tobago House of Assembly's development tourism plan for Tobago. We, as the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago, would always respect the opinions and plans of the people of Tobago, and they have done a fantastic job so far, and we're hoping that they will continue to do that. So let's move away from Tobago and talk about Trinidad, because here is where tourism needs a lot of work. So let's start with what we know, what we have. Let's work with what we have. One thing we know for sure is that there are some wonderful, beautiful mountain ranges in Trinidad. One of the very first things that we would do within the first 18 months of a Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago government, you will see within the first 18 months access to those mountains. Access would be via two ways. One, through clean, well-maintained, clear hiking trails to the top of all of our major mountains. In addition to that, people who are not fit but will love to see the top of those mountains and to have the experience of the nice cool breeze at our mountaintops, those people will be able to access those mountaintops via cable cars. So let's talk about the cable cars. There will be cable cars going from the base camps to the mountaintops. Why cable cars? Cable cars because they are environmentally friendly. Cable cars because they will not necessitate a lot of cutting off of mountains in terms of getting people up there. One of the fantastic things that we are going to do also is that there are some great beaches on the north and south coast. On the north coast, for example, there's a beach at Paria, and that's a beach between Matlot and Blashy. Beautiful beach. Only hikers have had access to that beach, or people who access that beach by boat. On the south coast, there's another beach called Canary, which is between Moruga and Guayari. Again, a wonderful beach that's only accessible by hikers and by people who use a boat. Those beaches will now be available. And there are some other beaches that many have not ever seen. For example, on the south coast, between Marak village and the beaches of Cedros and Icacos, that whole south coast there, a lot of that area is not accessible. All of those beaches throughout Trinidad, on the south, north, east and west coast, wherever there are no roads, they will now be available via cable cars. Why cable cars, I said? Because we do not want, for example, let's talk about the north coast. On the north coast there are wonderful, beautiful waterfalls, but in addition to that, the flora and fauna is immaculate. There are ferns, flowers, tall trees, birds, animals, and you certainly don't want people going there with their tractors and machinery, heavy machinery, to break down this place. And then you certainly don't want the pollution from all the car fumes and so on. So in all those instances, we are going to have cable cars accessing those beaches, accessing our mountain tops. That initiative would not only attract people within Trinidad and Tobago, but people from the Caribbean, and of course all those ecotourism. It will augment our ecotourism drive. All those people from Europe and North America who love to look at birds and all those wildlife will now be able to do so safely and get to those areas safely via cable cars. We also, while we are at the mountains, we'll talk about the waterfalls. You know, a lot of people are unaware that there are over 10 beautiful waterfalls in the Northern Range alone. So a lot of these waterfalls, they are basins, and the river flows from them right down into the main watercourses. However, they are only accessible via hiking. I know of a lot of them because I did a lot of hiking in the Northern Range. But when you get to those waterfalls, you recognize that it's not very safe for visitors. It's not very safe because there are no rails, there are no to protect people from falling in, people who can't swim, and there are no lifeguards. With a DPTT government, the park rangers, which we spoke about in an earlier episode, will be there to ensure that you have a safe trip to the waterfall. But in addition to that, they will have nice eco-friendly rails, clear tracks and paths so that you can get to these waterfalls and enjoy yourself. Missing from all of these things when you go there as hikers are toilet facilities. So again, you go there and you're thinking, oh, what a wonderful, pristine bit of nature that you're experiencing. But then a lot of people have no place to defecate, and as a result, the whole atmosphere changes. We are going to ensure that you have eco-friendly toilet facilities at all of these nature sites. That, my dear people, together with the park rangers, together with the guides, together with the cable cars, gonna make the mountains beautiful, the mountains and waterfalls, beautiful places to visit. We cannot talk about tourism in Trinidad without talking about one of the gems that we have allowed to just remain there undisturbed. And that is the bird sanctuary. But before I go to the bird sanctuary, do you know that one of the places that have one of the largest variety of birds in Trinidad, and it's internationally recognized by bird watchers, is right at the Beetham Dam? There's a wide variety of beautiful birds right there opposite the Beetham estate. That bird sanctuary, that part of it, is another area where we will ensure that it's preserved for bird watchers to enjoy. But let's now talk about the bird sanctuary. Let's talk about what exists and what we propose. So let's take you on a trip to the bird sanctuary. You get there and you're greeted by someone. I will tell you my experience, so that way you know exactly what happens. I pulled up at the bird sanctuary. There are no areas designated for parking. You can park wherever you can find a park. So you get a park. Young man comes out in a slipper, short pants. Hey, you wanna go down the river or what? Hey, I have take the ticket down the river, you know. That's the approach. So if you're with a group, they'll take you that group, give you a bit of a little thing about be safe and you know, don't throw stuff in the water and all that. And you get a life vest. I can't remember if we got a life vest, but I want to assume that we got a life vest. And you're there on this flat bottom boat that you will not want your kids to sit on. So you take this trip down river with two outboard motors making a lot of noise going down river, and then you're into this beautiful bit of mangrove, watching all the crabs, the snakes and so on that they have in the mangrove. It's beautiful, and then you see the birds coming in. That's what, and then you come back and they say, "Oh, thank you, man." You pay your money and you leave. That's the bird sanctuary experience that you have now. A bird sanctuary experience of the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago is a lot different. First, as you arrive, there'll be designated parking. So you arrive to the thing that says parking here. Safe parking. Your car there'll be security guards looking after your car. Now you enter the reception area. You enter, there's a gift shop. So you can buy stuff. You can buy stuffed starlet ibis. You can buy replicas of the crabs and stuff. You can buy all your Trinidad and Tobago mementos right there in that gift shop. And then you are escorted from this air-conditioned, nice, clean gift shop onto a jetty, a nice, well-kept, beautiful jetty, onto a nice boat with a canopy, nice clean seats, electric motors. So electric motors for two reasons: so that you don't continue to pollute the water, and so that you don't disturb with the amount of noises that you have from an outboard motor. These boats would calmly take you down while the guide, a nice, well-kept guide, professional guide, explain to you the beauty of the bird sanctuary. After you make that trip down around the bird sanctuary and you're back, you again exit through a gift shop where on your trip there would have been individuals taking pictures of you and your family, so you can now buy pictures of you, pictures of the birds and that kind of stuff, and you can walk off there with a wonderful experience, an experience at the bird sanctuary in Trinidad and Tobago. That is what tourism is all about. You can't have a place where you go to the bird sanctuary and the toilet facilities are filthy. You can't have a bird sanctuary the way it is now and say this is Trinidad and Tobago fantastic bird sanctuary. What it tells us is that after all these years, we pay very, very little attention to tourism and the quality of tourism that we offer, the international standards that are necessary for tourism in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to also talk to you now. So we finished with the bird sanctuary and we go into another one of the natural things that are available in Trinidad, and that is the Gaspery Caves. You know what's amazing? If you went to the caves in Barbados, I can't remember, I think it's the Harrison Caves in Barbados, and you went to the Gaspery Caves in Gaspery Island, just on the face of it, you would recognize that the Gaspery Caves are much more beautiful. But if you get to the Harrison Caves, there's trolleys that gives you a guided tour. In other words, you can sit down and through these rails, they take you all the way through the cave and come back. So you don't have to walk and through these dangerous tracks as you do in Gaspery. Why haven't we done? We've seen Barbados. Most of us know exactly what they did with their caves. Why haven't we done that? Well, that's the sort of thing that we have to do in order to make the Gaspery Caves a beautiful experience for people who visit those caves. I want to tell you something that you don't know about our caves. Apart from the fact that the Gaspery Caves are beautiful and we need to change the whole entrance and exit, then make that a world-class tourism attraction, what you don't know is that there are another set of caves right on the mainland in Trinidad. Now it is rumored that these caves go all the way from Fort Picton up on Picton Hill to St. Joseph. It is said that since St. Joseph was the capital of Trinidad, that the soldiers were able to go from St. Joseph to Fort Picton underground. I don't know if that's true, but what I know is that that is an area need exploring. So we're going to look at the caves that we have between Picton and Laventille and St. Joseph. While we are at Laventille, I want to also let you know that Laventille, there are some wonderful forts that people have never seen. And the view from those forts are beautiful. So again, just by renovating the forts, by making the Whitco Gay Desperados Panyard a tourist center, and again, if you've been up there, if you went to listen to Desperados play, you would recognize that a beautiful view, especially at night, of the city from on the hills. So with the Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago as the government of Trinidad and Tobago, Laventille would be a very beautiful place to explore. And all that stigma of crime and stuff that you hear about in Laventille will change because of course, we talked about a whole plan for ensuring that everyone, every area in Trinidad and Tobago is safe. You see, it's a small island. It's a small island. We are 60 miles by 40 miles. Very small island with only 1 point something million people, 1.3, 1.4 million people. So we can definitely ensure that every area in Trinidad and Tobago is safe for tourism. We can't talk about tourism without going to talk about the Trinity Hills. Have you ever been to the Trinity Hills? Have everyone ever seen the Trinity Hills? When we talked about the mountains, we talked about cable cars going to mountain tops, and we did not talk about the Trinity Hills. I want to make sure that you understand that another part of that tourism drive would be to the Trinity Hills. I am told that we're coming close to the end of this segment on tourism, and we have just scratched the surface on tourism. How can we talk about tourism without talking about carnival and how you market and package carnival? One of the things I'm going to leave you with because it would seem that we'll have to do another episode on tourism to get into a little more about how the wonderful opportunities that we have by simply upgrading what we have naturally in Trinidad and Tobago. But so we'll do that at another time. But we have to end by talking about the grandstand and how do you package the carnival shows, Panorama and the March Gras show. Every time you have Panorama, people talk about the same thing. I have been going to Panorama since I was a teenager. And I go now and the experience is the same. And I ask myself, why can't we have a top of the line modern stage where 3 bands or 2 bands can fit at the same time? So you just switch from band 1 to band 2 instead of waiting for 15 minutes for a band to roll off and the next one to come in place. It's easy to be done. What have we done to ensure that the acoustics are perfect? What have we done to ensure the lighting is perfect? What have we done to ensure the seating is perfect? We have been living forever with grandstand, North Star, noise. You miss the whole beauty of the energy and the whole music contribution of Pan in the Panorama in the present setting. The Democratic Party of Trinidad and Tobago will ensure that your carnival experience at the Savannah is world class. So that when you get there, you can sit comfortably, you can be refreshed comfortably, you can hear comfortably, you can see a world-class production. The Parliament have done their part. The arrangers have done their part. All the musicians have done their part. We have not done our part. We have not made Panorama the pleasurable experience that it ought to be. We have not made the March Gras show the pleasurable experience that it ought to be. We have not been able to take carnival and transform it into the modern, beautiful experience that will keep tourists coming here and say, this is the best carnival in the world. So ladies and gentlemen, it's an exciting time for tourism. But tourism is not only about exciting and enjoying ourselves, it's fundamental to the amount of money that we make as a nation. It is fundamental to the sustainability of Trinidad and Tobago on the long term. We cannot continue to depend on oil and gas. Tourism is just one of those many areas that we are going to use to ensure that we have enough money to ensure that Trinidad and Tobago economy grows. I thank you, and until our next episode, this is Steve Alvarez saying goodbye for now, and may God bless Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
In the evening of my life, I shall look to the sunset, and the moment